it risks destroying wealth and creating poverty. End quote. Well, we have just passed through a period in which extremely profitable businesses turned out to be making a profit on paper, but destroying wealth in reality. So at this juncture, we simply cannot pass off Pope's comments without giving them more serious thought. Further, I think most business people understand this intuitively. And when I say most business people, I mean people who actually run a business. I don't necessarily mean bureaucrats who may run a government department or a corporate department. But businessmen, I think, entrepreneurs do understand this. Well, they might intone, I entered business to make a profit. They also know that they became entrepreneurs for a variety of reasons. To be able to express their own skills, to support their families, to support their associates, to contribute to the community, and to achieve a sense of mastery, a sense of dignity and self-worth. These emotions are familiar territory to most entrepreneurs. As Benedict notes, there is a growing conviction that business management cannot concern itself only with the interests of the proprietors, but must also assume responsibility for all other stakeholders who contribute to the life of the business. The workers, the clients, the suppliers of various elements of production, the community. Many far-sighted managers today are becoming increasingly aware of the profound links between their enterprise and the territory or territories in which it operates. These sentiments will not come as a surprise to entrepreneurs. To bureaucrats, these words may be mysterious, since they have been trained in the belief that their only obligation is to shareholders and not to any other social good. Ironically, these bureaucrats end up serving their own interests, getting as much as they can in the way of pay and privileges at the expense of both the owners and the workers. Indeed, we are in the habit of speaking of business as if all businesses were of the same kind. But in fact, there are at least two modes. The great corporations run bureaucratically by and for the bureaucrats, and the small and medium-sized enterprises run largely by the entrepreneurs who own them. This latter group often has a much easier time in understanding its obligations to its workers, its suppliers, and to the community. Now, with this as a background, I think it's easier to see what Benedict means by gratuitousness. The worker and the entrepreneur offer their services to the community and offer it in solidarity with all the other stakeholders. Dale, could you get me a glass of water? On the mere level of exchange, this is, of course, covered by the rules of contract, by the laws of supply and demand. Nevertheless, in commercial relationships, the principle of gratuitousness and the logic of the gift as an expression of fraternity can and must find their place within normal economic activity. The human demand at present time, this is the human demand at the present time, but it is also demanded by economic logic. It is the demand of both charity and of truth. So in other words, the Pope wants us to merge these and not do what we have been taught to do. That is to put business here and ethics there. That is a recipe for the economic disaster, in fact, the very disaster in which we find ourselves.
That was pretty tricky to get a glass of water from the guy?
Well, you know, I had to get some to see my
That wouldn't work at all. That- Now, this logic of the gift does not negate the logic of exchange or the logic of duty or law, but it transcends them both. It allows us to see our work in a new light, and thus enlightened to contribute our talents to the commonwealth and the common good. This common good involves building not just a business, but a culture internal to that business devoted to the common good of the firm and the community it serves. If we start with such a basic concept, such as competition, it is a concept we emphasize in business and in fact is necessary in a competitive free market environment, whatever free market means. Nevertheless, while one can emphasize the competitive aspects, competition itself has to be seen as a form of social cooperation. Take an example, a football game. Joseph, for you that would be a soccer game. In a football game, obviously, is a competitive environment, but in fact, it is a highly elaborate form of social cooperation because both sides must cooperate by subjecting themselves to the rules. If the game doesn't stop when the man throws the yellow flag, the game won't start because the casualty rates would simply be too high. No one will risk their necks if there are no face mask penalties. So even within competition, we start. It depends. It is based on cooperation. It is based on a certain culture of cooperation which makes the game possible. So within business, what kind of culture creates maximum values? Now, Jack Stack, founder and president of Springfield Remanufacturing Company, identifies the primary management task as follows. People, he tells us, can accomplish almost anything if they have a common purpose, a higher goal, and they all know what it is, and they're all going after it together. Everybody needs to be going somewhere. People need a destination where they get lost. If they have one, however, and if it's really their own, there is no telling what they can do. They can survive the darkest hours, beat the longest odds, scale the greatest heights. Building a common purpose, a goal that is owned and shared by all members of the firm, is the primary task in building a company culture, and hence of building up the firm. What Mr. Stack especially wished to avoid was what he called employee thinking. That is, thinking only about one's job, or at best, one's department, without considering the common purpose, the good of the whole firm. Yet, this is precisely the kind of thinking that most of us have been taught, both formally